And a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday. I'm John Mayer.
And I'm Lily Taylor. A chilly start this morning.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely grab that sweater, turn that heater on in the car.
Watch out for animals that might be taking shelter under your vehicle as well. We're getting to that time of year. Just all those familiar tips, of course. And one of the biggest tips is that you might need a few extra minutes as you head out the door. Briana Chavez has been tracking that out for us. But yeah, frankly, you don't need to see the numbers to feel the difference. As soon as you step outside, it's like a slap in the face.
Yeah, you know, I finally swapped out the winter and summer clothes in my closet. Needless to say, you guys will be seeing me with a lot more sweaters on in the studio because it gets chilly in here.
Absolutely.
And it is a clear indicator of just how chilly it is out the door as well. We are talking about a 10-degree difference for the southern Willamette Valley. Not quite as much for portions of our coastline, but that's not to say we aren't seeing the impacts across the board. A frost advisory for central Lynn and Lane County, as well as into Benton County. Throughout specifically the valley floor is where we're seeing these impacts. So just something to keep in mind. Give yourself a little extra time to help defrost your car. And if you have some sensitive outdoor vegetation, while we are seeing a little bit of a frost advisory early this morning, you may want to take into consideration that you might start seeing some of these frostier conditions over the next couple of days. So definitely take care of that outdoor vegetation. From the 30s into the early morning hours to the possibility of some 40s, 50s, and we're capping it off into 60s. Well, we'll get into when we could slowly push our way into some slightly warmer temperatures coming up in just a bit.
LSB Live is sponsored by Alpha Towing and Recovery.
All right, thanks for the updates, Briana. And of course, we've got our live shot buddy out there in the elements this morning, doing his best to stay warm on the roads, keeping an eye on how things have been developing out there over on the interstate. And well, you know what? So far, so good. We haven't exactly seen significant traffic. It's been a quieter start to the morning. The big issue you're going to run into really is that chill as you head out the door and maybe needing a few extra minutes before you get that car going this morning. Though we do have reports of one accident this morning on Beltline, the westbound lanes over by Division. That is one spot that you might see some slowdowns. Doesn't look like it's making a major issue out there. We're not seeing a huge slowdown on trip check, but still keeping track of how that could develop throughout the rest of this morning. And of course, we'll be keeping tabs on any of those issues that you might run into as you head out the door early on. We'll be checking back in with our live shot buddy for the latest there throughout the rest of the day. Continuing coverage now on the Israel-Hamas peace deal, with all remaining living hostages now freed and an end to the fighting in Gaza. The focus now shifts to what comes next in the Middle East.
Well, questions remain about whether Hamas will actually disarm and who will secure Gaza and rebuild. The first steps of the plans were carried out yesterday in what President Trump calls the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
And here's national correspondent Christine Frizzell with more.
This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up.
An agreement for the ages, with leaders signing the Gaza peace plan in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt.
We've all agreed that supporting Gaza must be done to lift up the people themselves, but we don't want to fund anything having to do with bloodshed, hatred, or terror, as has happened in the past.
A historic day that began with President Donald Trump meeting with the families of the 20 remaining living Israeli hostages who were reunited with their loved ones at last. The president praised by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for his role in making it happen.
Donald Trump is the greatest friend that the state of Israel has ever had in the White House.
This is not only the end of a war. This is the end of an age of terror and death and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
What that new Middle East looks like was front and center in Egypt, where the president welcomed more than 24 world leaders to the peace summit he co-hosted with Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who, along with others, heaped praise on President Trump.
I think that you're the man this world needed most at this point in time.
President Trump also announced the formation of a, quote, board of peace, a group that will decide more details regarding the rebuilding of a post-war Gaza and who will govern and keep it safe. President Trump says many countries have already asked him to join the board. I'm Christine Frizzell reporting.
We got some local reaction about the ceasefire. Many we spoke to saying they're glad to see hostages released.
Throughout the conflict, I hope the hostages can finally come home. That's for both sides, and I hope reconstruction efforts and humanitarian efforts will actually be allowed into the Gaza Strip.
It's definitely a step forward. I know I wanted to see the hostages released. I know they've been through an ordeal, and I'm just really thankful that they get to go home to their families.
The Jewish Federation of Lane County responded to the ceasefire, specifically the 20 Israeli hostages that were returned. In a statement, they said, quote, "It is our choice to embrace hope, something that has felt impossible for the past 2 years. For the civilians in Gaza, for the families of the hostages who have waited in anguish, and for the possibility of lasting peace. As a Jewish community that lives far from the war, we hope this peace may serve as an antidote for the growing waves of anti-Semitism in the West and our own deep communal divides," unquote.
We are not going to support bills that push rates up into the stratosphere or kick Oregonians off their health care. That is a red line, folks.
Well, Oregon senators in town yesterday explaining their position on the ongoing federal government shutdown. The big sticking point has been securing affordable health care for millions of Americans through subsidies. They're set to expire at the end of the year. Now, the senators were joined in Eugene by local health leaders as well as residents. The senators warning that subsidies or tax credits that help middle-class families pay for insurance set to expire could mean premiums could double for some Oregonians who purchase coverage through health exchange. Now, Affordable Care Act subsidies were temporarily extended during the pandemic, but if the government fails to extend them before the end of the year, it could make coverage unaffordable. Eugene resident saying he could be facing a near 400% increase for his family's monthly insurance payment.
If we sign up for the same exact insurance starting in 2026, without the subsidy, our payment per month will be over $2,200 a month.
So that's more than quadruple.
Yes. So that's pretty ridiculous. I feel like it's cold-hearted and cruel what's happening with this so-called plan.
Well, local officials have said it's more than just premiums. The loss of coverage for thousands could also make the existing healthcare landscape worse. In the past few years, Eugene has lost its only hospital. The Optum takeover of Oregon Medical Group, that resulted in a major exodus of primary care doctors. In the last few weeks, OMG discontinued its OBGYN and maternity care services.
When people are uninsured, it doesn't just impact their ability to access care. It also reduces funding available in an already very strapped system and puts healthcare access at risk for everyone.
Now, Gray says that reductions in funding result in stretching budgets, reducing the quality of medical treatment around Lane County. Senators say that they are willing to negotiate a bipartisan deal that could reopen the federal government, but not at the cost of millions losing access to health care.